The story you're about to hear is one of those rare pieces of wartime innovation that slipped through the cracks of mainstream history. It's the kind of detail serious historians and survival-minded thinkers appreciate because it shows how necessity forces creativity into places nobody expects. If you're new here on The Prepper Historian, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss these deep dives. Today's guide is about a little-known paint additive from World War II that allowed ordinary wood to stop incoming rounds. Yes, wood. The same material used for farm fences and barn doors. For about a minute, let me hook you properly, because this one is worth your full attention. During the desperate years of the Second World War, steel was rationed, factories were bombed, and militaries were forced to improvise with whatever was available. Out of that pressure came an additive mixed into paint and applied to wooden surfaces to create low-cost, fast-deploying, bullet-resistant barriers. This wasn't a myth, and it wasn't a temporary gimmick. It was a fully tested, scientifically backed formulation used on guard posts, airfield structures, vehicle panels, and even hastily built defensive walls. It's the type of forgotten innovation that proves humans don't always need exotic metals to survive incoming fire. Sometimes you need chemistry and a brush. The paint additive was honestly born from wartime shortages and, well, a kind of brutal practicality. When British and American engineers realized that steel shipments just couldn't keep up with defensive needs, they looked toward composite solutions. One key ingredient, interestingly enough, turned out to be silica, essentially extremely fine sand, combined with specific resins and binders. When mixed into thick paint and absorbed into wooden planks, it dramatically changed the way the wood behaved under impact. The silica increased surface hardness and dispersed kinetic force across the grain. Instead of shattering or splintering, the treated wood compressed and resisted penetration. Military tests showed that layered boards saturated with the mixture stopped low-caliber rounds and significantly slowed or destabilized higher-caliber ones. This didn't turn wood into some invincible plate, but it made it viable for field fortifications where soldiers previously had no protection. Now, the Allies weren't the only ones experimenting with this, you know. German engineers had their own variations, often mixing mineral dusts into paints and varnishes that they'd apply to bunkers or equipment. The goal, really, was always the same: strengthen the available materials without needing heavy industrial processes. But honestly, the real secret was just how deeply the mixture managed to penetrate the wood. You know, a lot of people assume it was just armoured paint sitting on the surface, but that really wasn't the case. Soldiers and engineers actually applied multiple coats while the wood was still somewhat porous or, well, unfinished. Each coat carried the mineral load deeper, filling spaces within the grain. The final result was a composite that behaved almost like a crude laminate, especially when boards were, layered together. Some units even baked the boards in the sun after coating them, letting the resins cure harder. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. The goal was survivability, not beauty. This technology mattered because it could be deployed anywhere, by anyone. That's where the value sits for both historians and preppers. You didn't need a steel mill or specialized equipment. You needed wood, mineral filler, and time. In World War II, it allowed bases to fortify guard shacks, ammo sheds, and aircraft dispersal points fast enough to stay ahead of enemy raids. Instead of waiting weeks for metal plating, soldiers could turn to simple chemistry to create defensive surfaces that actually made a difference in combat. In some Pacific Island campaigns, United States Marines applied the mixture to makeshift fighting positions using whatever local wood they had. Reports from the era show that treated logs resisted small arms fire long enough to save lives during night raids. There's practical value in this knowledge for anyone studying historical survival methods. For those of us who enjoy understanding the intersection of history and preparedness, this isn't just trivia. It's a reminder that materials can be transformed far beyond their basic form. In a modern context, someone wanting to create a more durable wooden barrier, whether for a homestead, workshop, or experimental project, can follow the same logic. So, the basic steps still apply. You'll want to source a silica-rich filler, like fine sand or even diatomaceous earth, then mix it with an oil-based paint or resin. After that, you just apply multiple coats to raw or sanded wood, making sure to let each layer cure fully. And, the deeper it penetrates, the stronger the final composite ends up being. Now, it won't turn plywood into ballistic armor. Let's be realistic. But it will, honestly, dramatically change the impact resistance. It'll slow down debris, shrapnel, or even weak ballistic threats quite a bit. Researchers and craftsmen who are replicating those World War II experiments today have achieved similar results, which, shows that the principle still remains valid. Understanding this technique helps historians appreciate how armies adapted under pressure. Every time we come across forgotten wartime methods like this, it adds a new layer to our understanding of logistical warfare. It reminds us that the victories of World War II weren't only forged in massive factories. They were also shaped by small, clever solutions created by engineers who understood materials and thought creatively under impossible conditions. This paint additive is one of those innovations that rarely gets mentioned. Yet it protected supply depots, airfields and outposts across multiple theatres of war. It gave soldiers at least a fighting chance when they had nothing else. That makes it worth remembering, studying and passing down. If you're the kind of viewer who enjoys uncovering lost survival techniques and forgotten technology, make sure you're subscribed to The Prepper Historian. Share this guide with another history lover and stick around. There's plenty more buried knowledge to bring back to the surface.